Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the press conference of the initiators of the Hamburg Sustainability Conference. My name is Imke Rajamani. I'm the co-managing director of the Hamburg Sustainability Conference, and I'm very pleased to be the moderator of this panel this morning. This second edition of the conference is taking place only 8 months after we launched our first Hamburg Sustainability Conference here in the Hamburg Chamber of Commerce and the Hamburg City Hall. And yet we must acknowledge that after only this 8 months, HSC is taking place in a very different and more challenging international context. Co-creating and accelerating sustainable development has not become easier, and yet this remains the core mission of our conference. Our theme this year is New Alliances Start Here, and that takes a lot of hard work and it takes trust, and we aim to build it at the Hamburg Sustainability Conference this year and those to come. Therefore, we are very pleased that we are expecting more than 1,600 participants this year from over 110 countries. They will work together in a joint effort across 60 sessions and 3 forums, forming strong partnerships and developing solutions together. And all of this would not be possible, and the Hamburg Sustainability Conference would not exist without our initiators who are represented on the panel this morning. And it's my great pleasure to introduce you first to Germany's new Federal Minister for Economic Cooperation and Development, Rim Alabali Radovan, UN Administrator Achim Steiner from the United Nations Development Programme, the second mayor of the Free and Hanseatic City of Hamburg, Katharina Fegebank, and the honorary chairman of the supervisory board of the Otto Group, Michael Otto. It is now my pleasure to give the floor to our speakers, and we will proceed from your perspective from the left to the right. Please note that our first keynote by Minister Rim Alabali Radovan will be delivered in German language. The other keynotes will be in English. If you require translation, please use the headsets which you find on the chairs. After the keynotes, we have some time for Q&A. And now it's my pleasure to give the floor to our first keynote. Minister Alabali Radovan, please.
Meine Damen und Herren, heute starten wir in die zweite Hamburger Nachhaltigkeitskonferenz. Und als ich vor 4 Wochen neu ins Amt kam, war mir schon klar, das in Hamburg, das wird richtig gut. Gut, dass es einen Ort gibt, an dem die Welt gemeinsam ganz konkret an den Nachhaltigkeitszielen, an den Nachhaltigkeitsthemen arbeiten kann. Gut, dass wir gemeinsam den Wert und das Prinzip der internationalen Zusammenarbeit mit neuem Leben füllen. Und wenn es die Hamburger Nachhaltigkeitskonferenz noch nicht gäbe, dann müssten wir sie spätestens jetzt erfinden. Denn die internationale Zusammenarbeit muss jetzt so stark sein wie nie, weil die internationalen Herausforderungen so groß sind wie nie, weil viele traditionelle Foren blockiert sind wie nie und weil der Wert und Nutzen internationaler Zusammenarbeit weltweit so aggressiv in Frage gestellt wird. Die regelbasierte internationale Ordnung wird aktiv untergraben. Nationalistische Tendenzen entscheidender Partner, besonders der Rückzug der USA, treffen die internationale Zusammenarbeit und das multilaterale System mit voller Härte, mit lebensbedrohlichen Folgen für Menschen weltweit. Und wenn wir ehrlich sind, leidet die Entwicklungspolitik oft darunter, dass ihre Wirkungen nicht unmittelbar sichtbar sind, weil niemand weiß, wie die Welt ohne Entwicklungspolitik aussehen würde. Das Dilemma der Prävention. Der Rückzug der USA macht diesen Unterschied jetzt leider auf fatale Art sichtbar. Ganz unmittelbar geht es um das Leben von Millionen Menschen. Es geht um verlorene Bildungschancen. Es geht um besiegt geglaubte Krankheiten, die plötzlich wieder ausbrechen, um das Voranschreiten des Klimawandels und es geht um Hungersnöte. Das können wir alle gerade live beobachten zu unserem großen Entsetzen. Umso wichtiger ist jetzt genau ein solches Format wie diese Konferenz. Ein Format, das diesen Attacken etwas entgegensetzt und eine einfache Erkenntnis stärkt. Es geht uns allen besser, wenn wir miteinander arbeiten und nicht gegeneinander. Und dafür setzen wir den Rahmen und lassen dabei neue Allianzen und Kooperationsmodelle entstehen. Heute Morgen treffen sich hier in Hamburg die Weltoffenen. Rund 1600 Entscheiderinnen und Entscheider aus über 110 Ländern kommen zusammen aus Politik, Wirtschaft, Wissenschaft, internationalen Organisationen, Zivilgesellschaft aus dem Norden, Süden, Osten und Westen zu einer Konferenz, bei der wir eben nicht übereinander, sondern miteinander sprechen. Diese geballte gemeinsame Kraft und Kompetenz ganz unterschiedlicher Entscheiderinnen und Entscheider ermöglicht neuen Schub für konkrete Lösungen. Ein Beispiel ist der große Investitionsbedarf vieler Städte. Weltweit ziehen immer mehr Menschen in Städte. In 20 Jahren werden 70% der Weltbevölkerung in Städten leben. Das erfordert enorme Investitionen in Infrastruktur, Transport, Gebäude oder die Anpassung an Extremwetterereignisse, die immer häufiger werden. Und gerade Städte haben jedoch oft Schwierigkeiten, an Kredite oder private Investitionen zu kommen. Das wollen wir gemeinsam ändern und bringen engagierte Geberländer wie die Schweiz und Luxemburg zusammen mit der Weltbank und weiteren Entwicklungsbanken. Dazu gehört auch ein Netzwerk, in dem sich Städte weltweit, insbesondere in Afrika, untereinander beraten, wie sie leichter private Investitionen anziehen können. Gerade in Zeiten, in denen öffentliche Mittel knapper werden, ist Kreativität gefragt, um den neuen Quellen für die Entwicklungsfinanzierung aufzutun. Und private Investitionen sind da ein wesentliches Element. Die Hamburger Nachhaltigkeitskonferenz soll also Ideengeber und Treiber sein und wir werden die Ideen aus Hamburg dann international einbringen in die laufenden UN-Prozesse, zum Beispiel in die nächste Weltklimakonferenz in Brasilien im November und in die Entwicklungsfinanzierungskonferenz Ende Juli in Sevilla. Auch die für den Sommer geplanten Reformen der Vereinten Nationen werden wir hier beraten und unsere Ideen mit einbringen. Insgesamt werden die Konferenzteilnehmer hier in mehr als 70 Sessions kreativ mit dem unbedingten Willen, die Welt zu verändern und zu gestalten. Ich bin überzeugt, das ist der Spirit, der die Welt zusammenhält. Herzlichen Dank.
Thank you very much. Yours.
Thank you very much. Ooh, it's very loud. Thank you very much, Imke. Minister, it's a pleasure to share this podium with you, to congratulate you on your appointment, and very much looking forward to working through you with Germany on many of the topics that your ministry and your government will play a key role in. To the second mayor, to also Michael Otto, a great pleasure to be back in Hamburg and to be part, on behalf of the United Nations and of the United Nations Development Programme, of this second edition of the Hamburg Sustainability Conference. Now, you will not be surprised if I, at the moment, set this Hamburg Sustainability Conference also in the context that you have just described, but perhaps with an even slightly more dramatic sense of urgency. I don't need to tell you what our world looks like right now. We are facing on so many fronts disruptions, uncertainty, confrontation, conflicts, unprecedented numbers of refugees and internally displaced people and conflicts around the world. The UNDP Human Development Report released just a few weeks ago, also highlighted with the Human Development Index how many countries since COVID have not begun to recover. We have a divergence in our global economy that is more akin to where we were somewhere in the 1970s. Dozens of countries stagnating, stuck, not being able to invest because of debt problems, because of the high cost of capital, and now, in addition, with an international trading environment that is beginning to close markets to them. If you are a poor developing country, heavily indebted, at the same time being asked to act on climate change, but also to act on the opportunities of a digital public infrastructure, and yet what you are faced with is to use your own health and education budgets in order to just service the debt you have in terms of your interest payments, this world looks pretty difficult. On top of that, our geopolitical tensions, the geoeconomic disruptions that we are now seeing, it is a time in which the world is beginning to struggle to come together for precisely the kinds of priorities you mentioned, Minister. And from the vantage point of the United Nations, we are deeply concerned because a world that does not find both the shared interest but also the commitment and determination to overcome differences in order to act on issues that only are solvable if we act together is a world in trouble. And here in Hamburg, I believe deeply that we have an opportunity to explore why sustainability is one of the few threads that can actually still tie us together. We have seen over many years now, maybe even going back to 1992, the Rio Earth Summit, that understanding the threat to the future of humanity, our economies, our societies, of not tackling the challenge of sustainability and now in the 21st century is to every country a loss. We have seen, despite some of the ruptures, including a US administration leaving the Paris Agreement once before, during the first administration of President Trump, and the rest of the world stayed together and moved forward. We need to hold on to these foundations for international cooperation. Particularly here in Hamburg, I also come on behalf of the United Nations and with many of my United Nations colleagues also, to appeal through Hamburg to a world not to underrate, nor underestimate, nor underinvest in multilateralism. Yes, there are many, many of the wealthiest countries that are turning inwards right now, that are essentially focusing on their own priorities, problems, but the consequence of that is also an increasingly serious defunding of international cooperation. At a moment when, in fact, we need one another more than ever. And thus, here in Hamburg, we also want to ensure that the agenda of sustainability is both understood as a common cause, as a shared interest, but also as a joint investment strategy into the future. That is why business this year is so prominent amongst the participants. We are very proud because we want to see the Hamburg Sustainability Conference break new ground to make the private sector, and particularly those who are willing and ready to act, to be part of a global transition towards cleaner energy, greener shipping, sustainable finance, the insurance sector, increasingly important both for nations and us as individuals to de-risk and to mitigate some of the threats and risks that climate change poses. And just the last few days have shown us again how dramatic and how sudden the destruction as a result of changing environmental conditions can be to people's livelihoods. Let me conclude by also saying that sustainability is not only something that can draw us together, that can help us to invent the economy of the 21st century, and we are in the midst of that. It is also another way of making the world less risky, less uncertain. It is part of a broader understanding that when we think about security in the 21st century, it is the topics that we are discussing here in Hamburg. It is the curation of new platforms and initiatives that may ultimately make a major contribution to a safer and a more cooperative world. In that spirit, we are very proud to join for the second edition of the Hamburg Sustainability Conference and look forward to 2 days of very intense and very productive discussions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Second Mayor Fehlberg.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being here today. It's a great pleasure for the free and Hanseatic city of Hamburg to have you all here, to have over 1,000 guests attending this conference. And thank you very much to the Chamber of Commerce and our government to be held this conference here for the second time. You too mentioned the global challenges ahead of us. We are facing right now climate change, the threat to our democracies. And especially in these times, it is so important to hold a powerful conference like this here in Hamburg. And to promote the city a little bit, Hamburg is a business and research hub with global networks of partners in pioneering spheres such as green hydrogen and sustainable energy. Sorry for my voice, I have to drink a little. And of course, we are also very grateful for the visibility that the conference gives us, because you mentioned it, climate protection really is protection of humankind, and especially in these times, we need to bring people together. We need to bring all minds together that want to work on a brighter future for all the people on this planet. And we are also actively shaping the Hamburg Sustainability Conference by linking the local with the international perspective. And this is exactly the link that is needed to achieve the 2030 agenda, the Sustainable Development Goals. And the minister already mentioned it. At the same time, it is important to work together on the global stage. The local level needs to be counted in. And cities have a crucial role. Today, more than half of the world's population lives in cities, and by 2050, there will be more than 2/3. And in cities, we can observe the challenges of our times as if under a magnifying glass. Although cities cover only 2 to 3% of the land, cities account for 75% of natural resources consumption, up to 80% of energy consumption, 70% of greenhouse gas emissions, and 50% of waste production. And cities are not only the problem causer, but they can be the problem solvers. By attracting talents, by working together on the best solutions for everything, by finding innovations and new technologies. So cities are also the center when it comes to the development of solution. And Hamburg is aware of this responsibility and its city's potential. And allowing me just on a short note, we not only have the Hamburg Sustainability Conference, we also have a local program starting this week, the Hamburg Sustainability Week, because we are convinced that the best way to communicate is by experiencing and getting people involved. So we not only have the conference here discussing the Sustainable Development Goals on a larger scale, but also finding concrete solutions for the city and its environment with more than 100 events from the 1st to the 6th of June. The Hamburg Sustainability Week showcases the great work that is already happening in Hamburg. So there are many workshops and many little events where you can participate in the Hamburg Sustainability Week to make it more concrete what is discussed here at the conference on a larger scale. So it will be a good promotion for Hamburg and its activities in terms of the Sustainable Development Goals. I really hope that this conference will be a great success, because in those times where everything seems to be torn apart, where there are a lot of insecurities, it is very important to bring people together to discuss the solutions of the 21st century when it comes to mobility, climate action, but also fighting inequalities in our societies. And here also cities can be the best answer to it. Thank you very much, and enjoy your stay and have fruitful discussions.
Thank you. Michael Otto.
Ladies and gentlemen, let me also extend a warm welcome at the start of the second Hamburg Sustainability Conference. As a major international conference presenting innovation solutions that spotlight climate and sustainability issues, the HSC is, in my opinion, especially in this time, very important. We have jointly launched this conference series to create an international forum for debates on sustainability issues. It brings together high-level representatives from interested governments, business enterprises, civil organizations, and academic institutions. But the idea behind this conference series is indeed not only to debate, but to identify good solutions and make them more widely available internationally and nationally, of course. With this in mind, we want to present innovative approaches from business, politics, and societies, and create partnerships that contribute to the ambitious implementation of these sustainable development goals. Additionally, we want to offer interested stakeholders from all regions of the world an accessible exchange format for this purpose. With a clear mission to drive sustainable change, the HSC offers a platform on which ideas and visions can be translated into concrete solutions for measurable progress. In addition to the public sector, the academic world and the society at large will play a key role here. The enormous potential of the private sector to accelerate progress on the SDGs must be unleashed. The economy must be transformed from its role as a contributor to sustainable crisis to a new role as a key solution. To this end, the direct links between a sustainable economy and its dependence on the use of natural resources must also be given greater attention. Making the preservation of natural resources a success factor worth striving in business is one of the major tasks we have to face. Innovative companies are the backbone of progress when it comes to achieving sustainable goals. They will be successful despite political turbulence as long as the market continues to demand products that uphold a green transformation. And that is what is happening. We can see that demand is even increasing in many areas. Interested governments are looking for solutions to support and accelerate this demand. In the next few days, promising ways to improve the framework condition for the economy will be discussed here. At last year's Hamburg Sustainability Conference, 15 alliances were set up, producing concrete, sustainable solutions in a variety of fields. It is very pleasing to note that the first tangible results achieved since the last HSC are being presented this year. This concerns progress that has been made, for example, in establishing green alliances for shipping and aviation. I'm delighted that many private companies are taking part, pioneers, as well as some that are seriously interested in scalable, innovative green solutions. Not least given the current geopolitical situation, in particular the current US administration's new positions on climate, environment, and sustainability policy, and on the work of the United Nations as a whole, the HSC is well positioned to become an international forum where those committed to progress in these policy areas can meet and explore together ways to accelerate efforts both nationally and internationally. In the long term, the HSC could become one of the world's most important events on the topic of sustainability as it drives progress toward a just transformation of industry and societies worldwide. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the keynotes. We are now moving on to the Q&A. We only have about 6 minutes left, so I kindly ask you to keep your questions short so that as many as possible of you can participate. I will call you on one by one. You will receive a microphone, and please state your name, the media outlet you represent, and please let us know to whom of our panelists your question is directed to. And the first question, please.
Hello, my name is Damien McElroy from the National newspaper. I was just wondering what contribution you see from regions like the Gulf and the Middle East in these changing times and all the themes that you just hit on.
Well, thank you. Of course, the Middle East and the Gulf regions play a big role in achieving the goals. And I'm very glad to say that we also have participants, of course, from the Middle East joining the conference. For example, we have the Minister for Environment from Iraq joining us today and tomorrow.
And
well,
next question.
Let me just say, I think in terms of the Gulf region, its significance to virtually every aspect of what is now on top of the global international agenda is very central. I mean, whether it is peace in the Middle East, whether it is also engaging in international discussions, including on climate change, on green transitions. We see across the Gulf countries a growing commitment to actually looking at a future that takes us beyond the oil and gas dependencies, even though those are fundamental backbones of their economies today. We see also in the context of, for example, Syria right now, countries in the region are stepping up very quickly with financial resources in order to stabilize the situation in Syria. And we welcome also very much the commitment in the United Nations of a number of countries in the Gulf region who are major contributors to the international humanitarian response, whether it is natural disasters, refugees, internally displaced people. We see all of this as indicators of a region that is playing an increasingly strategic and certainly relevant part in international relations. Thank you.
And the next question from the back, please.
Vielen Dank. Michael Althaus von der Katholischen Nachrichtenagentur. Meine Frage ist, wie teuer ist diese aktuelle Hamburg Sustainability Conference?
Da darf ich Ihnen als Geschäftsführerin der Hamburg Sustainability Conference direkt darauf antworten. Unser Jahresbudget, denn wir haben nicht nur die Konferenz hier vor Ort, sondern wir haben eine ganze Reihe von unterjährigen Co-Kreationsprozessen. Unser Jahresbudget liegt im einstelligen Millionenbereich und unsere Finanzierung wird gestellt vom BMZ, von der Freien und Hansestadt Hamburg, und wir hatten eine sehr großzügige Anschubsfinanzierung von der Michael-Otto-Stiftung, und jetzt haben wir auch einige private Sponsoren und Stiftungen an Bord. Die nächste Frage hiervon.
Yeah, thank you. Julian Staib, Frankfurter Allgemeine Zeitung. What can we expect from this conference except from talking to each other in difficult times? Lots of letters of intent, which might be forgotten, or what are the results?
Well, you already heard from Michael Otto a number of takeaways from last year's Hamburg Sustainability Conference. And let me just take the topic of green shipping. In Hamburg last year, there was a major event that brought together actors from the global shipping industry with government representatives. We were in the midst of seeing a historical and unique decision being prepared in the International Maritime Organization, which essentially for the first time not only acknowledged explicitly, but a few weeks ago adopted a carbon taxing or a carbon pricing scheme for global shipping. It is one of the sectors that so far had been completely excluded from playing its part in also dealing with the challenge of decarbonization. The green shipping and logistics and transport conversations continue this year here at the Hamburg Sustainability Conference. Another topic that we see being central to not only each country's national development, but actually our ability to de-risk, if you want, and also to mitigate some of the threats that are coming from the immensely rapid deployment of emerging technologies. Artificial intelligence is a key topic at this Hamburg Sustainability Conference here this year, not in the sense of dystopia or utopia, but rather, as we also put it in UNDP a few weeks ago in our Human Development Report, it's a matter of choice how AI will be part of the future of sustainable development. We are very pleased that the Hamburg Sustainability Conference has brought many players from the tech industry together with public figures, civil society organizations. We need to look at both the extraordinary potential of technologies such as AI to advance development, particularly for poorer countries, but we also need to look at global cooperation in order to have a more cyber-secure and cyber-safe world. Again, we have an AI declaration here that we are adopting. It's one of the first in the context of sustainable development. It builds already on a number of working partnerships, and my hope is that in the next 2 or 3 years, in fact, the HSC becomes one of the platforms on which we understand the significance, the potential, but also the imperative of working together on AI in international relations. Thank you.
Maybe can I just quickly add to that? What I would expect is really to have the city as front runners of green transition and green transformation, and really exchange ideas and thoughts about best practice and benchmarks when it comes to transforming, as Michael Otto said, the shipping and aviation industry, for instance, or in how far we face inequalities in terms of the sustainable development goals and what role education and science play. So really setting benchmarks in cooperation with the public and the business sector on the one hand, but also exchanging thoughts in between the cities, as having cities as the engines for innovations and new technologies. And I hope that we will have some fruitful ideas and setting the pace as Hamburg, as the host city as well.
Perhaps a short remark also from my side. I think our intention is that we have not only alliances which will be signed at the conference, but that we are also working with workshops in between the conferences, so that we really push to find solutions and to work intensively on reaching the goals, so that we finally can see then the result on the next conference, because it's a series of conferences. And so we are looking on progress, on permanent progress. That's our intention.
In those challenging times, I think it's crucial that Germany sends out a signal to the world, especially to the countries of the global south, that we are still also a reliable partner, not only as federal government or regional government, but in the mix with the international organizations, with the local organizations, and with the private economy. And I think that's a very important signal that we're sending out right now in this challenging time.
Thank you very much for inspiring a round of very good closing statements with your questions. Unfortunately, we have run out of time. Allow me a little bit of logistics before we are leaving this room. To all photographers and camera crews in the room who wish to attend the photo call for the handshakes of our high-level political representatives, please follow my colleague, Darwin Faeser, who will guide you over to the City Hall. Also, for all the press officers who want to go to the City Hall, please also follow Darwin Faeser. Now, I thank you very much for attending this press conference, and now I wish all of us an inspiring and, of course, effective and impactful Hamburg Sustainability Conference 2025. Thank you very much.